Hello, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about two people who vanished in the national park system. Two people who didn't know each other, but both went missing on the same day in national parks in the same state. After this, we're going to have a little conversation about serial killers and the possibility that maybe there's serial killers at work here. Maybe not. Maybe it is all paranormal and supernatural. Maybe it's all of the above. Let's go. However, before we do get into it, I'd like to say this. If you are not already and you would like to be, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, if you would, go ahead and click that thumbs up. A lot of us forget to do that after we listen to a video. So if worse comes to worse, you can always go back and unclick those. It's completely free. No one will harass you. But I would appreciate it. Alright, let's go. The first case, a woman whose name is Connie Johnson. Connie was 76 years old, but she was a tough woman. She was an experienced outdoorsman who, at the ripe old age of 76, was working as a camp cook for Ritchie Outfitters in the area around Fog Mountain near Big Rock in Idaho. This is an area with no roads and only accessible by horse or on foot. Connie had previously worked as a U.S. Forest Service wilderness ranger at the Moose Creek Range Station. She was a member of the Selway Bitterroot Foundation, and she frequently led young people and other groups on tours of the back country in the area. Her friends said that she was very well experienced in the back country and knew how to survive even if something went wrong. Connie was not a woman to be messed with. She was not a woman who would wander off and get lost. She was not a woman who didn't know her way around. She wasn't a woman who, if she did get lost, would crumple up and cry and wait for someone to find her. She knew how to get out. She knew how to get in. She knew how to take care of herself. Connie was last seen on October 2nd, 2018, as the hunters were leaving the camp. According to the county sheriff's Doug Giddings. The next day, the hunters did have radio contact with Connie, but they were unable to really understand what she was saying on the radio. When they returned to camp on October 5th, Connie and her dog Ace had vanished. They were gone. A search and rescue mission was quickly assembled. There was a large group of searchers on foot. They brought in tracking canines, and they deployed aircraft using FLIR heat technology from the U.S. Air Force, the Idaho National Guard, the Clearwater County Backcountry Helicopter Rescue Team. And yet, they found nothing. Chris Atkins, who was a former colleague, was interviewed, and his quote says, "It's reconcilable, you know, what everyone is dealing with this. Because like you said, this isn't like some pilgrim's first rodeo. This is a woman who spent literally the last 25 years of her life, most of them on foot, in the wilderness, alone, doing her wilderness range work. And if there's anybody that has a skill set that positions them to beat this, it would be Connie." But no trace of Connie was found, and the search was ended on October 16th. 3 weeks later, Connie's dog Ace turned up at the Moose Creek Ranger Station. He wasn't hurt. He appeared to be well fed. The dog was examined. There didn't seem to be anything wrong. And so they took the dog out to see if he could lead them to Connie. But he was unable. Here's a little bit about the kind of woman that Connie was. In an oral history Connie recorded for the Selway Bitterroot Foundation, she talked about her experiences in the back country after she moved there from Iowa many years before. She said, "I don't remember really being afraid of anything. I am a spiritual and faithful person, and I kind of gave everything over my life to, there's God taking care of me, and I know that, but I did learn too, and I don't remember being fearful. There were lightning storms, and there were creek crossings, and there were lots of challenging things physically, but I'm naturally an impatient person, and this taught me, since I was by myself, to be very careful about where you put your feet." She went on to say, "Connie, if you get hurt out here, there's no way anybody's going to help you. You're on your own. So it taught me to plan ahead about how I would negotiate this or that, or how I would deal with a water supply or bee stings and that kind of thing. I just love being in that place so much. It just took care of me, It's a pretty overpowering feeling to look up into those hills, and especially being a flatlander like I was. I'm still in awe of the power of those mountains, and the power of the weather and the creeks, and the sheer hugeness of it, and the fact that we're not in control of anything." When her daughter was interviewed, she said this, "I can only speculate about what happened to her." But she didn't believe that her mother's disappearance was intentional. She didn't believe that she just walked off, never to be seen again. She said, "I think that she was enjoying the outdoors, which she loves, and something happened. The weather came up, she fell. I don't know. But I think that she got surprised. Given the temperature, given the lack of time, given the lack of signs of her, and the fact that Ace is not with her, all points to..." And then she trailed off. Perhaps by coincidence, Terrence Woods, who was 27 years old, was reported missing around 5:30 p.m. on the same day in the Oro Grande area of Idaho, under very mysterious circumstances. He was a production assistant from Maryland, and he was helping film a documentary on Penman Mine for a British TV show called Whitewater. At some point during the filming, for some unknown, unexplainable reason, Terrence began to run into the woods. He didn't tell anybody. He didn't make a noise. He just ran into the woods, and the production crew knew that there were cliffs out there, and they thought that he had probably just ran right off of one. But by the time the crew went over there, they said that he was already 15 feet down the cliff, running like a hare. So his father asked, "What do you mean running like a hare?" And they said he ran so fast they hadn't seen anybody run that fast before. They also told him that you can't get lost out there, because if you get lost out there, you're going to run into a road or a house. So he didn't just poof, vanish, and disappear. No, he made it to that road. Someone picked him up. Who? And why? How would someone know that Terrence was suddenly going to turn around and bolt into the woods unexpectedly? I don't know. We may never know. Despite an extensive search, no leads were obtained from the previous 7 days of searching, and no signs of Terrence were located in the search area or the expanded search area. So, what happened to Connie and Terrence on October 2018 on the same day? Two people who in all likelihood had never met. One a young man, one an older woman, one working for a production company, not necessarily somebody who would go running into the woods and survive. The other, a woman who could be left alone and live possibly the rest of her life out there. So, what do you think happened? Go ahead and leave me a comment. And that's going to lead me to the next thing I'm going to talk about. So when we talk about these people who have gone missing, we talk about things that have to do with the paranormal or the supernatural. The fact that many cases have things in common, like the weather comes in on that right after they go missing and holds up the investigation. We talk about occasionally serial killers and how a national park is like shooting fish in a barrel for a serial killer, because there's a 5-day, maybe a month search, depending on the tenacity of the family. They could be out there for a year or so. But in general, if you go missing in a national forest or a national park, after a few days it's considered that you're dead. You've fallen down, you've drowned, you've met up with a wild animal. The FBI would like us to believe that on any given day there's a 21 to 50 active serial killers in the United States. But I've learned recently that there are different types of serial killers, and that several ex-police officers, ex-law enforcement, ex-military, along with a hefty dose of internet sleuths, have determined that there's at least 800, possibly 2,000 active serial killers on any given day in the United States. That nearly every city has an active serial killer. Now, by definition, a serial killer who is somebody who has killed at least 2 people. But I'm talking about people who hunt. There are hundreds and hundreds, thousands of women who go missing every year. These women are usually prostitutes. They're considered to be society's garbage. But we've talked on here about, is it possible that serial killers talk to each other? That if something were going on in national parks, is it possible that they communicate? And I learned recently that 2 major highways in the United States, the 2 major ones, connect in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That within a small radius of that area, there are up to 800 missing women. There was an interview done with a trucker who had been caught and tried and convicted of being a serial killer. He killed at least 30 women. And in this interview, he admitted that there are hundreds of serial killers who drive semi-trucks. Semi-trucks, if we didn't have those, if we didn't have them on the road, this country would collapse. There's probably certain type of people who take these kinds of jobs, and one of these types of people is people who want to be alone, who aren't particularly comfortable in society, and perhaps are serial killers. The interview with this man, he said that it's almost common knowledge, he felt, between truckers, that there are serial killers at nearly every turn on every major and minor thoroughfare through this country, that they speak on the radio in code, and that what he did with the serial killers that he spoke with was the way they would set this up is apparently out of the 27,000 police and law enforcement services in this country, it is not a requirement, if you believe that you have a serial killer on your hand, to report that. In a lot of places, Anaheim, Daytona Beach, New York, they don't report it because, well, money, tourism. That's an important thing. They know that people aren't going to hear prostitutes are being killed left and right. In the last month, we've had 4 prostitutes or drug-addicted women brutally murdered. People aren't going to hear that. They're going to hear, we think we have a serial killer on our hands. And they're not going to go to those places. Therefore, tourism would slow down. So, because of that, it's very difficult to know the exact number of people who are missing. Also, you add into that a lot of these women, prostitutes and drug dealers, maybe they don't have family. Maybe they don't have family who know that they're missing. They've been gone too long. Most of them also have children. What he said is that they would meet up in, say, Oklahoma City and exchange women in a sex trafficking type of a situation. So that if a woman went missing in Pennsylvania and she was exchanged, and he said that it could be multiple times, not just once, we could meet up with another trucker serial killer, and then another, and then another, and somehow this person ends up being a missing person in Nevada, a dead body in Nevada, a skeletal remains. And so they put together what they think the woman looked like, and they show it on that local TV station maybe, and ask if anybody knows who that woman is. But it's not shown worldwide. It's not shown nationwide. And so the family in Pennsylvania who's missing their daughter doesn't see that this recreation of what is their daughter from her skull is being shown in Nevada. So many of these women go unclaimed. It's not that they're not reported missing. Mostly they're reported missing. But when you can't connect the two dots, then they're never going to be claimed. And what I wonder is, besides some of the paranormal and supernatural things that seem very obvious in some disappearances in national forests, some witnesses, some people who have been taken, their testimony is sometimes almost unbelievable because of the things they tell us they saw, especially young children. But is it possible that there's also another factor? Is it possible that someone who's working in a hunting camp can be taken and never seen again by serial killers? Maybe it's all 3 options. Alright. I hope you have something to think about. If you have thoughts, go ahead and leave those below. Like I said, if you are not already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. If you like this, enjoy this type of content, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and click that bell if you'd like to know when my content goes live. And also, please share these videos with other people that you know are interested in these type of topics. Thank you, and good night.